Hey everybody.
Hi guys, this is Rita.
This is Amanda. We're going to do something a little bit different than we normally do. We're putting out something in the middle of the week because we just uploaded and put out into the world our live episode.
Our very first live episode.
And that took place at GirlCon Northwest, which was this really cool event hosted by the Girl Scouts of North America in the Pacific Northwest or Inland Northwest region. So we talked about a couple of girls. I talked about Jackie Mitchell, a young woman, 17-year-old, who was a pitcher for a while in the Major League Baseball. Actually, she was in the minor leagues. And she struck out Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth.
It was such a great story. I really, really enjoyed that one. I've been telling people about it. I'm like, have you heard of this girl?
I loved doing that story. I couldn't even believe that the first paid baseball team was a whole team of African-American women. I had no idea.
I didn't know that either.
And I thought that was something really special to put in there. So Rita also talked about
Barbara Johns. And she was a civil rights activist, young girl.
How old was she?
She was 16 when she led a walkout protesting against the racial segregation in her school and her poor school conditions. I mean, they were atrocious. You couldn't really call them schools. They were terrible.
Upon playback, we realized that, it's hard to do a live show.
It was extremely difficult. Like Amanda and I were sitting there and I have, usually I'm okay once I start doing something, but I had like a mini panic attack right before we started. And I was like, oh my God. But, everything went so quickly.
Yeah.
And we are also having like some technical difficulties, like the hour before we were supposed to start.
Also, when we were going into this show, there was kind of like a lot of I didn't really know. There was a lot of confusion, I guess, back and forth as to where we would be placed on this stage and where the stage would be and blah, blah, blah. And of course, we didn't really know what was in store for us until we got there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that they didn't really, this was the first time they've held this GirlCon and they didn't know how many students would show up. And there were a ton, which was so cool. And every woman there who was doing workshops and things like that were just amazing women. Mm-hmm. So we weren't sure where exactly we were going to be recording, but we had thought we would be on the main stage, but we ended up next to the main stage. Mm-hmm. And we knew we were going to be recording in between when the sessions ended and dinner began. But what we didn't realize is everything was all in the same space. Mm-hmm. And when they released the girls to go have their breakout free time, that was during our live episode recording. So we had 40 girls who just sort of crowded around the table as we recorded. And we were put through the main sound system, but it wasn't very loud. So we were yelling.
That's why it's I listening to it, period. I was like, wow, we're just shouting. But when we were in that space, man, we could barely hear each other. It was so loud.
And we tried, kudos to our editor and producer, Lucas, who really worked on those vocals, because I listened to the raw vocals and it was really rough.
Really? Oh my goodness.
I contemplated just saying we're not going to release it, but we did want to release it because the girls who came to listen to us really enjoyed what they were hearing. And I had one of the girls in the audience was a girl from my school who came up to me in the following week and was like, hey, when's the episode going up? I can't wait to listen to it. Aww. So I just really felt like I didn't want to not put it up.
Yeah.
It would be a disservice to the organization for allowing us to come in and do this really crazy thing. And also to these girls who did want to listen to this and wanted to be a part of it.
I agree.
So we did release it. However, you can't really do a lot of editing on a live episode. So there were a couple of times when things were misspoken. So we just wanted to clear a couple of those things up. Mm-hmm. So concerning Barbara Johns.
Yes.
She actually was part of the movement to end segregation, not end desegregation.
She's like, you know what? I actually really like just, being separate.
Separate and unequal. It's my favorite. So we just want to clear up that was literally just nerves being live.
Yeah.
whatever. You knew what we meant, I'm sure of it. But I really felt obligated to come back and talk to you guys a little bit about segregation in schools in 2019. Because we were talking to 12-year-olds to 17-year-olds in that audience. And actually, I don't know if you noticed this, but there were some girls I thought were maybe like 9.
Yeah, 8 or 9 years old.
They were much younger than 6th grade, which would have been like 12-year-olds.
So our voices, we're very lighthearted. We're trying to be funny. We're trying to be entertaining. Because like a couple of them would walk away and I'm like, no, stay.
I know. I was like, don't leave. Yeah, you had more kids listening when you went, and then like when it switched over to me, they were like, peace. I was like, no,
please stay.
Yeah, but we kind of, I think, glossed over the problems that education systems still have. And I felt really icky and irresponsible afterwards. So I just really felt obligated to come here and talk about how segregation may have ended legally, but it never ended in the literal world. And it's actually gotten worse. Inequality in schools has actually escalated, particularly since the 80s and 90s. And just this week, the New York Times posted an article about Stuyvesant School, which is a public school in New York City, but it's a very exclusive public school. And there's like a lottery or an application system to get in. And they have 895 kids.
That doesn't make any sense to be an exclusive public school. Or is it because it's only so big?
I'm not really sure how that happened. I was actually this morning, I was reading about the history of the school, but I was like, that's not really the important part. So I just know that this is a pretty exclusive school. In the 70s, they were accepting applications, and it's, Black families who wanted mobility for their children knew that they needed to have a good education. And in the 70s, there would be like 40% of the students enrolled were Black. And then like in the 80s, it was like 25%. In the 90s, it was like 10%. And this week, they accepted 7 Black kids.
Yikes.
Yeah, so it's gotten worse in a lot of places, pretty much everywhere, because income inequality has gotten worse everywhere, and income inequality disproportionately affects people of color. And I just wanted to make sure that we all were being responsible in the information we're putting out there, especially because I am a veteran educator and I know these things, and I don't want to appear like the clueless white chick who's like, everything's fixed now. It's post-racial America. We elected Obama.
And I really do, I admire that Amanda drew attention to this, because when we started this, we always said that we would acknowledge and take responsibility for the information or the misinformation that we're putting out there.
And I just want to say, like, I lost my dog a week ago yesterday, and he was my best friend. And so I couldn't really focus on our podcast until like late this week. So I feel like I knew that was in there. I remember it when it happened, and we could have recorded something earlier in the week and made sure it was attached to it. I just didn't have it.
Okay.
I didn't have the emotional wherewithal or energy, and I apologize to our listeners for letting that slide.
Well, we're taking care of it right now.
We are.
So we're good.
Thank you for sticking with us.
Appreciate it.
And get ready for our next episodes. It's awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Goodbye.
Winning.